Hello, gorgeous human beings, and welcome to Charisma and the We Are Off of Them membership. I hope you had a great little break so that you could try some stuff on. I have seen some awesome posts. I've also received some incredible messages. And I've seen people like having some breakthroughs around charisma, like trying stuff on and all of a sudden feeling a lot more open, noticing people come to you a lot more, people hanging around you that normally wouldn't, people spending more time talking to you, people like stuff has started to already begin and we're not even halfway through the program. So this is pretty perfect. I would like to inform you that I've decided to add a Q&A because I've noticed that there's some pretty cool questions circulating in the group that I think would be really beneficial to answer. And so I'm adding a Q&A on Friday. The team will add it to your schedule. It's going to be on the 7th of June at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And so you'll be able to add to the Q&A thread and I'll be able to go through that and answer as many as possible. And then we're going to start answering identity Q&As and then we'll have this Q&A and it's going to really get this group popping. I think we're going to have a lot of fun with the calls that are going to happen in here over the next little while. So very excited about that. So today, yes, my wisdom streak is on display today. Today we're going into a very important piece of charisma. So I want to ask you, in your opinion, what is one of the things that really helps you decide whether someone cares about you or not? Like, how can you tell whether you're connected to somebody or not? So it's going to be on Friday the 7th, the Q&A. So what are some things that it's like in this context or when this is happening, this is kind of when I know. So let's see how I feel. Okay, so they're present. So their presence when they walk into the space with you, when they show up in the room with you, just the way they show up. How I feel in my body. It's an intuition, a way that you feel. If they've paid attention to me, my nature, my instincts, feeling the energy, action, and communication. They're listening. When they really listen, it's a vibe. I feel their focus. They listen to what I say and they get curious and ask more questions. I feel it when I feel heard. They're engaging and responsive, comfortable, effortlessness. They're present in our conversations, right? You feel it, how well they listen to me. I'm immediately comfortable around them. And yes, when I feel safe, I know because I choose to believe they do. That's pretty epic. The quality of connection when we're together, safety. They remember details about things I've said or experienced in the past. They listen and they respond with their body language and their energy. I feel it, their presence, their attention. I feel at ease in my body. I feel relaxed, the way they respond. They affirm with words that feel sincere. They're not overdoing it, like centering themselves. They remember the conversations we've had, their presence, they show care. I feel seen and heard around them. If we get interrupted, they say, you were saying. So what I was waiting for here was in communication. One of the top ways we experience whether someone cares about us or someone is present or someone is charismatic or someone is magnetic or likable is through conversation, verbal and nonverbal conversation. So it can be in when you're talking, they're looking away. You're talking and they're like, sorry, what was that? You're talking and they're cutting you off. You're talking and I'm still listening to you. I just have to answer this thing real quick. I'm still listening to you. I just need to, like, all of that. You can tell. And then there's also the way that they actually listen and talk. So today's entire module is about communication because communication is the number one thing that will define whether people experience you as being a charismatic person or not. And in the context of this program, what that basically means is they like you because they feel you like them. That's what it boils down to, is in the way that you communicate with them. And so there are a lot of people in the world that will say how people hear you is up to them, not up to you. Like it's their job. It's an inside job. The way you hear something or understand something is your responsibility. Yes. But in the context of charisma, none of that matters. Because the thing is, there's a reason we want to be charismatic. And the reason we want to be charismatic is because we've got big things to do on the planet and we're really not going to go very far if nobody gets what we're doing. And if we have a hard time communicating and if people don't feel valued in our presence, like we're not going to go very far if people just don't get it, what we're doing. So communication is such a huge, important piece of the puzzle. Now, here's the issue. If you need validation. Communication is going to go a certain way. If charisma is something you do in order to be liked, conversation is going to go a certain way. And most people have conversations with people, and the reason they're having conversation is to get validated and to be liked. That's the reason they're in a conversation with you. So can you imagine being in a conversation with someone, and the most important thing on their agenda for this conversation is to look like they're right and for you to like them? How much do you think you will enjoy that conversation? On a scale of 1 to 10. It's like, which role am I playing right now? Like, would you like, what is even my purpose? Like, I am here to validate you and to make you feel like you're right. That's it. That's my job. Well, I can do that without listening to you at all. Actually, that's probably the only way that I can do that, is by going, right. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Yeah, no, yeah, for sure. Yeah. And this is what ends up happening. The less the conversation is about genuine connection, and the more it's about you proving something, the less engaged you're going to get with the person in front of you. So the goal in communication is that there's actually a connection that gets formed. That doesn't happen if you go in and with the context of, I need to be right and I need them to like me. But that's the majority of the planet. So what are some things that a person that wants to look like they've got it all together and they want to look intelligent and they also want you to like them, what are some things that those people will do in a conversation if you've experienced this before? So either they're trying to get you to like them, or they want to make sure that they're right and that you agree with them and that they look really smart. What are some things that you'll experience in a conversation with someone who does that? So you feel used by the end of it. They take a keyword and they tell a story about themselves. So you're saying something and they're like, oh yes, so you said the word potatoes. Did I ever tell you the story about how I saved the planet using one single potato? And then they go into this story and you're like, how the heck did this become about you? Okay, what else? They talk a lot. Lots of prove it facts. They talk about themselves. They bring it back to themselves. You feel uncomfortable, the energy's off. That reminds me of the time. Oh, everything, that thing you said that I was supposed to listen to and care about. Yeah, I didn't care. But what I did do is think about me the whole time. And what it reminded me of is this one thing about me that I'd really love to tell you in hopes that you'll like me more. And that thing is a lot of proving their point and why they're right. Let me tell you what happened to me. Dropping a lot of important knowledge. Like, did you know? Oh, so you're telling me this really vulnerable story about you and your life. Did you know that this fact that's completely unrelated to your emotional state and the thing that you care about is something that I know that would make me look very intelligent to you if you thought that this mattered at all? Did you know? They repeat themselves. If they see that you thought something was funny or something, they'll say it again and again. A lot on how they're better all the time. They don't even notice whether I'm interested or not. They can't read the energy. You're kind of like fidgeting in your chair. You're opening your mouth to speak and they're just not even getting the cue that you would have said something if they just breathed. If everyone's been asking about my skincare routine was a problem, when they try to one-up you and everything you say, they cut me off and they dismiss what I contribute. No pause for me to engage at all. They try to fix me. You tell them a story and they're like, maybe it's because you're like, no. I'm telling you a story that happened to me a decade ago, something I've healed. If you would have let me finish the story, I would tell you how I then triumphed and now I'm really successful. But no, you cut me off in the middle of my tragedy story to give me advice. Sometimes it's about them. You're not even a consideration, your attention or otherwise. They get louder. So if you start to try to chime in the conversation, their volume and their speed kind of goes up and you're like, okay, you really don't want me to let me in. Like a car on the highway. As soon as you try to get on the highway, car speeds up. It's like, nope. They can't read the energy. So true about not reading the energy. It feels like being a vacuum, and like with vacancy, it's somehow noisy and distraction. No pause for me to engage that part. Wanting to impress by all their stories on how wonderful and accomplished they are. They move a lot. They put others down. Okay. So when you think about it, it kind of makes logical sense that if you're trying to have people value you, that you would try to show them how you're valuable. Like, technically, it does make logical sense. And when we fear, and when we're in lack, and we're not connected to our power, and we're not in the zone, when we're not in the vibe, we forget the cues, and all of a sudden, you're just like, maybe they don't know that I'm actually valuable. So what can I say so that they know that I'm valuable? Do you think it may have ever happened for you that you've felt that way? Like, I don't want to be all about me, but I want to find a way to kind of add something about me that shows that I've done amazing things and that I'm actually really successful, or that I'm worthy of listening to, like, and then you kind of try to find your in. Have you ever done that? Okay. So this is like the next level of this, because we're going to talk about context in communication. So can you see how the context of I want to show that I'm valuable is different than the context I'm valuable? Same as the context I'm single is different than the context I want to show that I'm single. Same as the context I'm wealthy is different than the context I want to show that I'm wealthy. Same as the context I'm annoyed is different than the context I want to show that I'm annoyed. One is just what it is. The other one is what it looks like. Which one do you think is more powerful? Showing or what it is? What it is. Now, for some reason, we doubt that when we fear. We're like, yes, but although I am valuable, if I don't show them that I'm valuable, what if they don't know that I'm valuable? And in that moment, you're outside of the context of knowing your value. You're in the context of questioning your value. And it's that easy. It's just like a little, bloop, oops, wrong exit. Like, oops, like just like that, just beep. You don't even need to do a U-turn. It's not even a 180-degree shift. It's just like, whoop, wrong exit. Just whoop, got off the highway there. Whoop, merged too soon. Whoops, just like that. And so why it's so important that we don't beat ourselves up is because it's so easy to just be distracted and not realize that lane was the exit lane. And to just be like, just this one little comment that takes me energetically out of, I know I'm valuable, to, I just need to make sure that they know. So when you're speaking to a person who knows that they're valuable, they will be listening to you in a very different way than a person who wants to make sure that you know that they are valuable. Do you believe that? A person who knows that they are valuable, so they know that they're valuable, they are going to listen to you very differently than if they want you to know that they are valuable. Because if the context of the conversation is I'm valuable, then I can listen to you easily. If the context of the conversation is I want you to know that I'm valuable, it's actually quite difficult for me to listen to you, because every second you're speaking is a second I am not speaking. And if I'm not speaking, how are you supposed to know that I'm valuable? I haven't had a time to tell you about the trophy I won in middle school. I haven't been able to tell you about the new diet I'm on that makes me superhuman. I haven't told you about my latest accomplishments or how many people like me on Instagram. I haven't been able to tell you about anything yet. How can I know for sure that you think that I'm valuable if I haven't said anything? So I can't just let you talk. I've got to make sure that you think I'm valuable. So I'm going to listen to you with the lens of, what can I say to this that would be valuable? So have you ever been in a conversation with somebody and the whole time that you're talking, you can tell that they are just waiting for you to finish one sentence so they can say something about the thing that you just said? And have you ever experienced that the thing that you just said actually has nothing to do fully with the full thing you want to tell them? It's just kind of like the beginning of what you want to say. So if they interject you now, you actually won't have even told them what you want to tell them yet. So they're listening to the prequel of what you haven't even said yet, trying to come in with value while you haven't even said what you want to say. So now you're stressed about saying the thing you really want to say while already knowing that they're not listening to you. These are the conversations most people are having. You're not listening to me. I'm not listening to you. I want to feel valuable. You want to feel valuable. And by the end of it, we both have a judgment about the other person. The only thing that stops this is you come in to the conversation feeling valuable and knowing that either this person is going to be a meaningful connection for you and everything I'm teaching you today is going to be so valuable, or they are an extraordinary opportunity to practice being charismatic. This totally changed my world. When I met Kevin, and I've told you this in this program before, Kevin was the one person that really changed the listening of me. Like when he was listening to me, it felt like I'd never been listened to that way. And it changed something in me. And I thought, if one person can change the way I feel just by listening to me, I can change the way people feel just by listening. It's so rare that people listen. Let me just be the one person that listens and let's see what happens. And eventually what started happening is miracles started to happen. So I would end up being connected to people that I didn't even realize would be very instrumental in my life, but just by listening, I would end up picking up on something, and then we'd end up being in a conversation. I'd end up being in a part of something amazing just because I listened. And other times, not. But I was so proud of myself for having stayed connected that I realized my growth every time. So same as the concept of you be the one or the one who got away. I talk about this a lot in relationships. Go to every date like it could be the one, because at the end, if you're the greatest person on the date, you're either the one or the one who got away. In conversation with charisma, this could be the greatest opportunity. It's your future partner. You don't know who you're talking to. So be everything you can be in conversation. You'll either be the one or the one who got away. There's either an incredible opportunity here, or it was an amazing opportunity to be the change for that person, or it was a great opportunity for you to practice your charisma. Either way, you cannot lose bringing these principles to communication. So how does this work? Why do the 8 C's of charisma matter so much in communication? So first of all, if I am not confident in myself, how is my communication going to be on a scale of 1 to 10? If I have 0 confidence, how is my communication going to be? Pretty freaking low. And so the more I bring confidence to myself as a person, the more my communication gets better. So what really is it about confidence? Confidence is like, I trust me. That's what confidence is. And so a lot of people say, I'm not good at conversation because I don't trust people. Have you ever heard that or felt that? But the thing is, confidence isn't about trusting people. It's about trusting yourself enough to know that if you have a bad feeling, you're not entertaining a conversation anyway. And if you have a good feeling, but you're wrong, you're going to be fine. That's really what confidence is. You're confident enough in yourself to trust yourself to decide who you're speaking to and what about, usually about things you're confident about. And if you're speaking about something where you're not confident in it, then you get to be courageous. You get to be, what if this person doesn't like me? What if this person doesn't get what I have to say, so I won't say anything? Sometimes you need to be courageous in communication. Say, I'm going to go for it. I'm going to go say the bold thing. So in communication, you're either confident in what you're going to say, or you're courageous and you try stuff out. But everything has a spectrum. So if you go into a conversation super confident, you could end up overtaking the conversation and not letting space for people to talk. If you go in the conversation with no confidence, the conversation usually will end up revolving around you with very little value in the conversation. The whole thing will be trying to make you feel better and nothing of value will really be said. So you want to find this middle ground where you own your space. You don't need to be perfect, but you trust yourself that it's going to go okay. And if it doesn't, you're going to be fine. If you can cultivate confidence in communication, the feeling of being in conversation with you and you being in conversation with other people is going to dramatically change. Now, a lot of people are like, I need to act confident or I need to look confident. But acting and looking confident are not the same frequency as just being confident. If you want to look confident, you speak louder, you sit up straight, you do all these things, it doesn't actually change that you'll talk too much, that you'll cut somebody off, that you'll do all the things that really actually cause a disruption in communication. So don't worry so much about what you look like. Be present. I trust myself in this conversation. And because I trust myself, I can trust this person. Because if I felt an I'd be gone already. If I felt a no, if my heart said don't sit here, if my instinct said move, I would. I don't have that feeling. So I trust me. So I trust this person. So let me just chill for a minute. That will go further than any amazing piece of clothing or fancy expensive thing that you're wearing or a perfect posture or a perfect laugh or whatever else you think you need to do. Your actual energetic confidence and trust in yourself and the person in front of you will go further than any of those things. Now, when we look at courage, there's a spectrum of courage. So there are people who you can tell are so scared, but they're making an effort and the effort is exaggerated. Like, okay, you know what, I'm so scared telling you this, but I'm gonna go for it. And you're like, oh my God, like, what are you going to tell me? Like, what is it? You know, like you don't want to go overboard with the confidence. Or with the courage. Like, this is so terrifying to me. My palms are sweaty. I've got vomit on my sweater already. It's mom's spaghetti, but here's what I want to tell you. Like, you're not freaking out. But you know inside that this is taking some courage. In the same way, if you are scared and you stay scared and you don't do anything about it, it is so uncomfortable to be in conversation with a person that is scared of being in conversation with you because you don't know what they're scared of. Have you ever been in conversation with someone that's like, they're afraid, but you don't know they're afraid, so they just feel extremely awkward, like you don't know if you've said something wrong or if you're coming on too strong, or if like you just don't, there's something wrong. And so it's like breathing through it and being like, I'm gonna be okay. I've decided I'm having this conversation, so I'm brave and I've got this. It's okay. I'm scared. I'm tucking my fear under my arm like a French baguette and I'm having this conversation. And then I bring the confidence with me. You know, I trust myself. I trust this person. I'm going to be fine. Yes, there's fear. I'm going to look dumb, but you know what? Worst case, I got this. I'm okay. And yes, exactly. You want them to take a deep breath. You want to like stop the conversation, be like, are you okay? We don't need to talk if you're uncomfortable. Like you almost want to coddle the person. So in conversation, you being brave and you being willing to say the tough thing is very important, but also you regulating your nervous system, breathing, taking a moment, because one of the worst things that happens is when we're afraid in conversations, we stop listening. So what are some of the things you might feel afraid of in a conversation? Like genuinely, like I am terrified that this could happen in an important conversation. If you've ever had a pressure conversation, like this conversation really matters and I'm terrified that this is going to happen. What could happen? What could go wrong? I'm going to get judged. I'm going to say something weird and they are going to judge me for sure. Or like, I'm going to say something offensive or something that triggers them and they're going to get me all wrong. Or I'm afraid they'll think that they've got it all together and I'm just lost and then they'll judge me. Or I'm afraid I'm going to say something that's going to make our relationship irreparable. Like I can't say what I really want to say because if I say what I really want to say, we're probably going to break the relationship. Or I have something in my head, but I know when I open my mouth to say it, it's going to come out wrong and it won't make sense. Or I might hurt their feelings. Or what if they shut down? What if I say something and because of something I say, they shut down? Or what if they reject me? Or what if I say the wrong thing and then they twist it and they make it sound like I said something that I didn't say? Or what if they're going to shut me down and get mad at me? Or what if I say something to one person and the other person that I'm not thinking about while I'm speaking listens and they get mad because I wasn't thinking of them, I was thinking of them and I wasn't considering them, I was talking to them. If I lose my train of thought, totally forget what I was going to say? What if I feel misunderstood or I say something and that's not what I meant, but they get something else? What if I say something that upsets them because I wasn't clear? What if they don't understand me? What if I don't look very intelligent? In my head, it makes sense. What if when I say it, it's not good? If I say something and they interpret it differently than what I meant, I can't take it back. So maybe I don't say anything. They'll misunderstand me. They'll change their perception of me. If I say the wrong thing and I hurt somebody, if I say something wrong and then they judge me and they take it the wrong way, what if this part of me makes them shut me out or become distant? So what if I say something I think is fine and really it's super awkward and they're like, oh, and then that's it. I lose them because of this one thing I said. I'm glad my head is not that loud. That's good. That I'll lose myself emotionally. What if they ask me a follow-up question and I don't know what to answer? So what is the thing that you will normally do when you're doing this and you're having a conversation with someone and all these fears are happening? Do you think these things, these thoughts, these fears are happening during silence? Or do you think you're having all these thoughts while the other person, or do you think these thoughts are happening in silence? Do you think these thoughts are happening while you're talking? Or do you think these thoughts are happening while they're talking? These thoughts are happening while they're talking. So the problem is that all the things you're afraid of doing, you're doing them because you're not listening. And all the things you're afraid you're going to make them feel, like misunderstood, they're going to misunderstand the fact that the look on your face is like this while they're telling you a joke. They're going to misunderstand the fact that you're sweating when they're literally telling you about their summer holiday. They're going to misunderstand the fact that your eyes are racing and you're looking up in the corner because you're trying to figure out what you're going to say next when they're sharing something vulnerable. Like they'll misunderstand that way more than they'll misunderstand the thing that comes from your heart. They will feel like they don't matter or something irreparable or whatever, you not listening way more than the things that you said. Most people's communication break in that person does not listen to me. And worse, you probably will misinterpret what they're saying when you're half listening, and you might say something that makes no sense. I had a friend of mine that I knew was very, very self-conscious. Like she just was always afraid of getting stuff wrong. And I knew this because I don't know if you've ever had somebody that does this, but someone who wants to finish your sentences, like let's say you're looking for a word and they finish the word for you, but she would always use a word that made no sense. Like the only way she could use that word is if she was not listening. So I would say something like, we would be talking about work and I would say, it's like last week when I was in my, and she's like, car. And I'm like, no, I'm talking about my work, my job. So I was in my back room at work anyway. And so I get a phone call from my, just like boyfriend. I'm like, no, at work, my boss calls me. And anyway, we were having a problem with our, something, and then she'll put a wrong word. And I'm like, it's for sure you're not listening to me. You want to help me, but you're thinking of something else. But she was so nervous. She'd get so nervous. And I would not even be able to finish talking. And she would tell me something else that would make no sense. Like it all made no sense. So it started that I wasn't really talking to her much anymore because I knew she wasn't listening to me. And it wasn't like she was saying anything bad or wrong, but I just thought, what the heck point is there speaking to this person when the minute we're in discussion, she goes into la la land. Like, let's just do something else. So she became the friend I went dancing with. She became the friend I went to see the movies with, but she stopped being the person I had conversations with. This is a way less valuable friend. So I realized in this part of that friendship with her, like if you aren't good at listening, you're less valuable. Doesn't matter how smart you are, how good you are and what you know. If you can't listen, you're less valuable to a person who wants to talk. So listening is important. even if you've got nothing smart to say, if you can just listen with your full presence and have the courage when they're done talking to you, like, honestly, I don't even know what I would say to that. That was such, I mean, that's incredible. What a story. That would probably bring you closer than to be thinking the whole time they're in their thing, trying to figure out what you're going to say that's going to make them think you're smart. So having the courage to be like, I am letting go of remembering what they're saying and having a quick witty comeback. You'll notice sometimes you're listening and they say something and you're like so excited because you just thought of something really cool you could share that works with what they said. And now you're like, oh, this would be a great time to interject right now. Because if they change subject, I'm maybe going to forget what I want to say right now. Courage is, if it matters, you'll remember it later. And if it doesn't matter, something else will come up. They will say something else and you'll think about something else later. Get out of your head. Have the courage to maybe forget the thing you're about to say, if it means being present. Because if you need to put a post-it in your mind, in case you forget what you want to say, the rest of the conversation that they're saying, you're not listening as much. Have the courage to forget. To say something else will come up for me. Let me keep listening. That changes the game. Now, another big part is conviction. And so have you ever been in a conversation with someone who really has no conviction whatsoever? And so this might look like, I mean, I don't really know. So what do you think of this as well? I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I'm like, okay, well, how about this? Yeah, like, I don't know. Like, they have no conviction about anything. Very difficult to have a conversation with a person that has no conviction about anything. And on the other side of the spectrum, if it's like, I know for a fact that this is true, and anybody who does not agree with me is a complete loser, that's also very difficult. But you want to have a healthy level of conviction because that's where passion comes through in conversation. You want to talk to somebody who's passionate about what they're saying, and then you're passionate about what you're saying, and they're passionate about what they're saying. That level of conviction in a conversation really takes people places. When the people that I spend the longest amount of time with in conversation are people with conviction. There's something you care to talk about, and we can go back and forth and back and forth. And because you're not afraid, you have so much conviction in what you're talking about. You're not afraid you're going to forget what to say. So you're not listening to me thinking, oh, I need to remember what I'm saying and what you're saying so that I have something valuable to say when I'm done. I'm listening because I've got a point that's going to come out as soon as you're done. It's a back and forth conversation that we're having. And I have so much confidence in my point of view and so much conviction that I'm not fighting with you. I can debate with you. I can say, that's a really great point. Have you ever thought of this? I can say, you know what? I never thought of it that way, but what I have thought about is this. What are your thoughts on that? You can have a debate instead of an argument when you have conviction. When you don't have conviction, you're afraid someone could sway your point. You push your point. It's almost like you're afraid that they could say something smarter than you and you'd lose your oomph. When you know your oomph isn't going anywhere, you don't need to fight. You can have a debate. There is nothing greater than a person that can debate. That makes for a good conversation. I value your point. And how about this? And how about this? This changes relationships so much. Instead of you're wrong, and that's the only thing I can say is you're wrong because that's the maximum of my conviction. It's like I could even entertain that you're right and it wouldn't even change my conviction. Let's say you're right. Tell me more. Let's say that's true. Tell me more. I've not lost my conviction at all, but I can even listen. I can question it. I can look at it because I know so much what I believe in that I can go there with you. But if I feel like you're challenging my beliefs and there's any chance I could get wobbly, I don't want to hear what you have to say. This is where curiosity comes in. So one of the top things that came up when I asked you, how do you know when you feel like someone cares about you, is they're really listening and they pay attention and they ask questions and they're curious. If you're wobbly on your conviction, you are not going to be asking questions. you're going to be trying to prove a point. The minute you're curious and you ask questions, if you question whether or not you have value, you'll wonder or you'll fear that your questions make you look like you're not confident or you don't have conviction. It's not about what it looks like. It's about what it is. So if you can imagine, I go to an event, and at this event are all these incredible people with traditional educations that all come from like really powerful backgrounds, and they all work in very logical kinds of companies. What makes more sense? Me trying to tell them that I've built something huge by not going to school and by believing in different systems than them and by being amazing, or to be super curious about all the things that they're up to because I've done it a totally different way. So I'm just going to be curious. Where do you think I will be more enjoyable to all those people in the room? If I'm asking questions. But also, where do you think I will have more fun? Trying to tell all these people that I did it differently, or actually learning something? But what if my context for communication is I need them to like me and I need to be right? Then I'm going to try to impress them, and I'm going to try to tell them that I've got a different / better way. So my context for communication is finding people with a similar charisma quotient. Finding people that recognize curiosity, that recognize conviction, that recognize confidence, that recognize courage without you having to spell it out for them. Like, I don't need to tell you that I'm successful for you to feel it. I don't need to tell you that I believe in me for you to feel it. I don't need to tell you that I'm valuable for you to feel it. As a matter of fact, the minute I feel it, you feel it. And I think those are probably your favorite people too. The ones where you can feel it the minute they just walk into the room, you're like, oh, I like that vibe. They wouldn't need to explain how they got to that vibe. You just like that vibe. You feel that vibe. So curiosity is so important because it's the only way we learn. In conversation, if I'm not curious about you, I will never know anything about you. And so if my intention is to make sure that I'm surrounded by the greatest people, am I going to find the greatest people more by telling them how great I am? Or am I going to find the greatest people more by letting them tell me who they are? My grandma always used to tell me, people tell you who they are, you just have to listen to them. I think this is a very smart thing that a lot of us forget. The easiest manipulatable people are the ones who talk about themselves all the time. They show you all their cards, usually dipped in lack of confidence, lack of conviction, lack of curiosity, and fear. They show you all these cards. They don't care to hear your perspective. The minute you talk, they cut you off to tell you something that reminds you of them. At the end, you know everything about them. They know nothing about you. The most powerful people are the ones that are curious and know everything about everybody else. I care way more in a conversation about knowing about other people than everybody knowing about me in a conversation. Because then later on, when I matter, if I matter, when I do tell them about me, there's a lot more chances that they'll care about it then. Because not everyone has the capacity to understand the things that we're talking about now, or that even care at the level that we're talking about now. So when I walk into a room and I walk in with my care and I walk in with my curiosity and I walk in with charisma the way I understand it, I'm already listening to people in a very different way. So the chances that we have a connection are much higher if I'm the one listening on the first appointment, on the first connection. And if I listen properly, there's actually a much greater chance at a second meeting. So if you and I bump into each other in a room, but you don't know any of the things that I'm telling you about right now, our best shot is that you speak and I listen on the first meeting. Now, if I really listen, there's a chance we'll have a second meeting. And if I really listened to you on the first meeting, and you can tell I listened on the first meeting, then there's actually a chance you'll listen to me for real on the second meeting. Now we've got something going. If I meet you in the first meeting, but all I do is talk to you, you feel unimportant, but you remember me as the person who never shut up, what are the chances we're going to have a second meeting? And if we do have a second meeting, you're already expecting that I don't care about what you have to say. So you probably don't talk to me about you, in which case I feel like I need to fill the space again, and it stops at 2 meetings. That's what happens with the majority of people. So the first time you meet a person, don't worry that you won't get to say what you want to say. You will. By the time you say what you want to say, though, they'll care about who you are. That matters so much more to me. I really don't care about a stranger listening to everything I need to say. I care about a person who wants to know what I have to say, hearing what I have to say. And I think the best way that that happens is if you've already listened to them and they see you as a genuine, real person. There's a lot more chances of them listening to you then. Let's see. What would you say about the kind of people who only talk about themselves without listening and dominate the conversation, but seem to be highly confident and convicted? So here's the thing. I need all 8 from a person in order to feel like I'm interested long term. But I do believe that a lot of people are in reaction mode instead of response mode when it comes to communication. And so I want to set people up on the first meeting that they can respond in a powerful way, so that when it's my turn to speak, the tone is set for our relationship. If they feel like they need to react, I'm not going to get the best of them, and then it'll never be my turn. So I let people take up as much space as they want. What that will do is sometimes I will bump into a very charismatic person who already knows what to do, and it's going to be like, wow, this is fantastic. Other times I'll bump into a person who normally would have reacted and we never would have had a relationship had I taken space. But because I lay the ground floor, we actually create communication connection. And the next time I speak and I matter, and it's awesome. Or I meet a person who tells me all about them. And the next time I meet them, they also tell me all about them. And then the next time they also tell me all about them. And then that's the last time. But I find out fast. And I think this is a very important thing. If you see yourself doing big things in your life, you've got to be able to tell fast. And what's the better way? Set someone up to thrive. They're either going to nail it, which is fantastic, or they're going to mess it up even when they had the opportunity to thrive. That shows you fast. If they don't nail it in a terrible situation, you've got to give them other chances. Like, it's a terrible situation. You can't judge a person by the worst possibility. But if you set them up to win and they fail that, you can move pretty fast. So I say set people up for greatness. Have them respond to the best case scenario. You'll know who you're dealing with. You don't need to give people a million chances, but at least give them one good one. Okay, let me see. This came up. What about the other way? When it's like pulling teeth for them to speak and be listened to. They don't want to share. They don't want to have the conversation. It's the same thing. I need all 8 in order for this to go somewhere long term. But I'll set you up real well the first time. So if it feels like they're pulling teeth, I'll share a story happily, but I'll show you where this comes. And I'm going to add this also into courage. So one of the things I've also recognized, when people are afraid, they're not going to get their entire sentence in. So if you've ever been in a conversation with a person, you can tell they're terrified, you're going to cut them off. They do this thing where they don't breathe. Like it's as if they're singing a melody with no end. So it'll sound like okay, so yesterday we went to the store and there was this woman there, and like I was telling this person, and then all of a sudden, so I bumped into her and I was telling her this thing, and then she looked over her shoulder and then her son was there. So she looked over at her son and she was like, I can't remember what the son's name is, but then, and then she said that. And anyway, so all this to say that what happened is then she walked out of the store and then she left the parking lot, and then I followed her out into the parking lot, and then I got into my car and she got into her car and she left. Well, anyway, this is not the whole point, but this is basically just to say this. So then I went on my way and she went on her way. And then later on I went to the gas station, the same woman comes back. So anyway, I recognize her from the store. So then I tell her this, and then And if you could even, there's not even a space to try. So you kind of look like this. And eventually you just go. So one of the things I have found in conversations when I'm speaking to a person, I will often leave pauses, long pauses where I say nothing. So that if they need to pee, if they've got to take a phone call, if they have another meeting, if they'd like to say something, it's really comfortable for them to go, just a second. But that takes courage because it means they might interrupt your story and go on a tangent. But I set you up for success because if I take a break and you need that break, we're both winning. If I give you a break and you interject with your fear and lack of not mattering and you say, talking about parking lots, my great grandfather bought a farm that's now being turned into a parking lot and my whole family's gonna, and you just, the conversation, that also tells me a lot about us. I'm okay. I don't need you to like me. I don't need you to think I'm valuable. I don't need you to hear the end of my story. I don't need you to care about the end of my story. I don't need to finish I don't need any of it. But it's a shame if I don't get to tell you, and it's a shame if we don't bond, and it's a shame if this isn't a match, but I'm going to be fine. And I'm going to set us up so that we win. So either this is going to be a great conversation and it'll be our first, our last, and our only, or either this is going to be a great conversation and we've got work to do, or either it's a great conversation and I can't wait for the next one. But I won't monopolize forever the conversation and at the end be like, maybe next time we can talk about you, because that's how you know there's no next time. But you've got to have the courage to take a minute. You've got to be able to take a moment. And some people say, I do that, but the only thing they ever do is they take a break to ask, does that make sense? In which case they're completely monopolizing the break. And that's usually a confidence thing. So I'm talking to you, and if there is a break, I'm using the break to ask you about what I'm talking about. So you wouldn't be able to exit the conversation anyway, because the space I gave you, I steered the space. You see what I mean? Right? So all you have space for is yes, while I swallow or breathe for the first time in 17 minutes and a half. And then I go right back in with the rest of my story, right? So there's so many things in communication that people do where they're trying to show the most dominant parts of their character. So we've talked about value. If I don't think I'm valuable, confidence. We've talked about trying to take up all the space with conviction, right? These are the things that when people want to look like they are valuable, they're confident, they have conviction, that this is how they're going to show up. But then there's the other thing that we do, and these are like the softer traits of charisma that also we've got to watch on the spectrum. So you think about connection. Have you ever had a person, you're talking to them and everything you say, they're like, oh my God, I just said that yesterday. I thought about the exact same thing. I said this to my partner last night. And then they go into their story about how they're exactly the same, or they did the exact same thing. They're trying to find points in common with everything you're saying. Or they're challenging everything you're saying. Well, playing devil's advocate, and they want to show you the opposite. They want to show you how maybe you're wrong. They want to show you the middle point for connection is we might be identical and we might be different, but I don't need to cut your story off for that. I'm staying in the zone with you. This is actually harder than you think in communication. So if you're talking to me and I'm listening and you can feel my connection, I don't need to show you we're connected. I don't need to overdo it, Oh, no. Oh my God. Like, I don't need to do that. I can literally just listen to you. And I think one of the things that are the most, so it's just a little thing that people do that I find is so good is you react, but like as it's happening, not as a proving it thing. So you're listening, there's a level that it's hitting you. One thing might be like, whoa, I wasn't expecting that if the person's a great storyteller, but it's not the whole way through. You're performing to make them feel, because it's not how it looks. It's about what it is. Sometimes it's a genuine, like they tell you something and you're like, no. They tell you something and you start laughing. Like that's a genuine reaction, but I need to show you that I'm listening actually breaks the connection. And when you get to the point where they're done talking, that's when you can take a minute, a second, and just think about what you want to say. If I'm in the zone with your story, when you're done, I'll need a second. This is what's normal. You tell me a story and I'm just like, and then you're done and I'm like, okay, what do I want to respond? Like now I need a second. The only time I don't need a second is if I've been thinking about what to say while you were talking. So one of the top things that breaks connection is the person hasn't even finished their story and you don't even need a second. You're just like, oh my, so, and I'm like, and so that's the story of how I built this business. My God, that is so incredible. You know, I really think that, and it's like, boom, they didn't even need a breath. That breaks connection. It means you were thinking about what you were going to say while I was talking. That's the only way that works. And I will tell you, I think this is why most people have a hard time receiving compliments. I want you to try this. This is one of your homeworks from this, because receiving compliments is huge in communication. People will compliment you on all kinds of stuff. And it's awkward sometimes to receive compliments. Who gets awkward sometimes when someone gives them a compliment? You don't know what to say. You're like, no, why? Okay, thanks. What makes it the most awkward is you think you need to respond fast. And the reason you think you need to respond fast is because you're in your head. And so by the time they compliment you, you're already thinking about the fact that they're complimenting you while they're complimenting you. So if I tell you, oh my gosh, I love your style today. And in the minute that they're telling you, you're like, I am receiving a compliment. This is awkward. Say thank you. And then they're just finished saying it. You look so good today. And you go, thank you. They're like, oh my gosh, it sounds like I agree. I sound way too confident. But what if you actually just let the person give you a compliment and think about it after you got it? So this means I say to you, you look so great today, and you take a second to actually receive it. So I say, you look so beautiful today. And you say, thank you. You actually look at what you're wearing. You actually take a second. Thank you. Thank you. Like, it's when you want to say thank you right away that it feels awkward. Next time someone compliments you, just try taking a second to think about what they said. You have the most beautiful smile. Thank you. I love what you're wearing. Thank you. You have the best vibe. Thank you. You have the best vibe. Thank you so much. Didn't even have time to breathe. I realized you're giving me a compliment. I'm not exactly sure what you said, but I think it was nice. Sound like a compliment. You're welcome. Thank you. No awkward. You're beautiful too. Love your shoes. Love your smile. You smell nice. Okay, bye. The minute someone compliments you, you give them the same compliment back. Who does that? I love your hair. I love your hair. You have the best style. You have the best style. I love your, I was just thinking that about your dress. I love your shoes. I love your shoes. Where did you buy them? I love your glasses. I love that you don't wear glasses. I mean, your eyes are nice. I mean, I'm awkward when people compliment me. Please don't judge me. We're so bad at it. And I remember there was this one experience I did in the Secrets of the Millionaire Mind event. My first one I ever went. And it was like, you have to walk around the room and you have to genuinely look into people's eyes and compliment them about something. And you're not allowed to give them a compliment back. And it was so hard for me. We didn't have to say thank you. We just had to receive it. But all I could think about was what I would want to compliment them for first. Like, I just wanted to be the one to compliment the fastest, because I just didn't want to have to just walk around after someone had said like, I love your smile, and be like, ah, I don't know what to do with this. I don't know what to do with this. I want to give it back. So receiving connection, no deflection, no quick quit. Just give it 1 second. Even when you wake up in the morning with like messy hair and bad breath and your partner says, gosh, you're so beautiful. You don't say, are you insane? I smell. You say, thank you. Because there is something about giving a compliment that is rejected that breaks connection immediately. It's like, I don't want this from you. Someone tries to open the door and you say, no, no, no. Connection broken. Someone says, you look great. And you say, oh, this old ratty thing, connection broken. So your ability to just hold the flow of energy, just hold it. Don't deflect right away. Don't give it back right away. Don't say no right away. You'll be shocked at what this does for connection. I had a great time. I had a great time. You're amazing. You're amazing. I had the best time. That makes me so happy. I had the best time as well. You're allowed to reciprocate, but not deflect. Give it just a second to land. You can awkward smile. You can giggle. You can hide your face. You can laugh. You can say, just don't say, thanks, you too, where there's no connection. Now, people think that in order to be connected to someone, you've got to be like looking and gazing into their eyes, breathing at the same tempo, locked, loaded. That is like really high on the spectrum of connection. Just being able to tell a cue from someone like they feel awkward, or they just want to, they need to pee, or they need to stand up, or they're not comfortable. They want to be in the shade. They've got sun in their eyes. I have blue eyes. I cannot tell you how awkward it has been so often for me in Hawaii that strangers talk to me and I clearly can't see. So they're talking to me and one of my eyes is like this and I've got tears pouring down my cheek like I am in the sun. You are talking to me and I am in the sun, and they're just like, and then this is our 3rd time in Hawaii, and I'm like, yes. Like, I can't. And not one person, like, you have the sun in your eyes. Let me stand in front of the sun. Like, I have to stand up and move. And then I feel so bad because I'm like, obviously this is breaking the connection, because I have to cut them off or be like, let me just move into the shade because I can't see you. How do you not be in the zone enough to notice the person you're talking to has one eye shut and the tears are pouring down their face? Like, be connected enough to notice little things. One of the things I'll often notice is people who are so afraid I'm going to cut them off that they don't swallow or drink. And then they get that like white spit on both sides of their mouth. So when that starts to happen, I take my drink and I drink. And this is a cue of like, I'm currently drinking, so I won't cut you off. You're safe. Take a sip. And they'll just grab their water and take a really quick sip before I'm done drinking. And then they'll keep telling their story because they're terrified, but at least the little white stuff's gone. I have a hard time with that little white stuff. It makes me very uncomfortable. Are you able to even notice? Can you even see that? That connection goes a long way with people. Just to say, hey, we're a few minutes to the hour, do you have another meeting? Are you good? Are we still good? Just checking in. So connection sometimes is so much lighter than we think. It's just a feeling of, I'm paying attention to you and to your surroundings. When you think about care, and I think this is a very important distinction, I want to bring forward care versus currency. So there is a different energy when you care about someone than when you value them. You can care about your 4-year-old, but it would be difficult to have a valuable conversation. Eventually it'll be like, okay, this is good. You'll play with your toys, because there will come a point where the conversation has been 3 times about Peppa Pig and 3 times about things that are not necessarily valuable. And it's like, they will keep repeating that forever if you don't say, yes, this is good. Now let's take a break. You not wanting to talk about something that's not valuable to you does not mean you don't care about people. But also, you caring about someone and you valuing someone is not the same. You feeling cared about and you feeling valued is not the same. I want to give you an example. You're sitting at a table, there's a bunch of people talking, and one person hasn't said anything. And you say, did you want to say something? Do you want to share? Do you think that that sounds like care or currency? If someone talks to you like that, do you feel like you are cared for? Or do you feel like someone cares about your actual opinion? So when it's like, would you like to say something? So now I'll give you the opposite and we'll see if it becomes clearer for you. Versus like, you know who I'd love to hear from? Kristen, because she hasn't said anything yet, and I'd really love to hear what her take on this is. Like, what do you think about this? Does that feel more like care, or does that feel more like currency? That feels like currency. So sometimes we think we want people to care about us, but we actually don't. We want people to value us. And we will accept care because we don't realize what currency feels like. And I think a lot of people who worry that they're not valuable accept care as a booby prize. So I don't mind not talking if you don't actually care about what I want to say. I only care about talking if you care what I want to say. When that changed in me, my presence skyrocketed. Because when you're sitting at a table with people and one person doesn't have anything necessarily that they want to say, but they're curious, they're confident with where where they're sitting, they also have their own convictions, and they're actively listening. You might not need to have to take them under your wing and say, hey, you haven't said anything in the conversation. Would you like to say something? I don't want people to think they have to do that with me. I don't like that. That does not feel good for me. What I would far prefer is to be there and for someone eventually, even if it takes weeks or months before someone sees me this way, to say, what's your take on this? Because they want to know what my take is on it, not because they don't want me to not be included in the conversation. But it's taken me a minute to get there, because when you need validation, you will take care over currency. This is why most people undercharge. If you take care over currency, you will take validation and applause over actual value. And that is how a lot of people end up getting the short end of the stick. They think if they make you feel special, they don't need to pay you. They think if they make you feel like you matter enough, they don't need to respect your rules, your boundaries, your payment plan. So I want you to care about me, but I want you to value me. Those two things matter. And I can't tell you how often on my journey here, I've had women tell me, I do care about you. I care about you so much. That's not why I'm canceling this payment plan. It really is just because you don't value me or our contract. No, I care about you very much. It's not what I said. I know you care about me, and your hope is that I care about you enough to not care about my value, but I do. And you can't care about me enough to make me not value myself. This is a big one for women. You can't care about me enough to make me not value myself. A lot of people think if they can just throw enough care at you, you won't value yourself anymore. You know, you're such a good person. You're so kind. You're so nice. You know, you're so, you care about, if you care about me, then you will. No. Charismatic people don't ask people to undervalue themselves ever. It's like the number one way you break a relationship. And it's so confusing when it happens to you and you don't know the 8 C's of charisma, because someone is making you feel like they care about you, but they're totally asking you to devalue yourself. And if you don't devalue yourself, it somehow means you don't care about them. That is a really weird conundrum. And it is a very non-charismatic thing to do. It's a manipulative thing to do. And in our context, manipulation and charisma live on two opposite sides of the globe. If it looks like charisma and barks like charisma, but it's not charisma, it's manipulation. It's not if it looks like charisma and it barks like charisma, it is charisma. Is if it looks like it and it barks like it and it isn't it, it's manipulation. That is so important for us to know. Some people use charisma. They act like they're connected, they act like this, but then they want you to do something. Usually the one thing that people will try to do against is they will amplify care and lessen currency. That's the way you know. So what we're going to go into as we move through this program is how you really understand your currency at another level. We're going to start opening that doorway as it pertains to charisma. So I've had a conversation and there's a program that exists called Currency that is a freaking masterpiece that's all about currency, but this is going to be currency as it pertains to charisma. So it's going to be a different angle. But what I would love for you to look at over the next, because our next one, we don't have a call tomorrow, our next one's the day after. I want you to notice this in conversation. See if you're able to be in a conversation where someone cuts you off. Oh, I was missing one. I haven't said compassion. So why is compassion so important? Most people imagine that anything that's being done to them, like the C's are out of alignment, means people don't care about you. That is never true. It's never true that the leading reason that a person is doing one of the C's out of alignment to you is that they don't care about you, is that they are so afraid that their C isn't landing that they're not even thinking about you. So if a person is trying to out-confidence you, it's because they're afraid that you're going to think they don't look confident. If they're trying to out-convince you, it's because they're afraid that their conviction isn't going to shine through. If they're trying to be so caring that they're not letting you care, it's because they're afraid that their care won't shine through. If they're trying to do anything that anybody does, anything is usually coming from their own fear of their own inadequacy. And so if you can't connect to a person, and you can't both be confident, you can't both have conviction and respect each other, it's because the other person is afraid that you having it means they don't. This is when you need compassion. This has changed the game for me because most people will fight. They will fight for who's more confident. They will fight over who has more conviction. The only way to keep your composure is to have compassion. So a person would be super in your face about something and you have compassion and you say, this probably comes from them being so afraid that they're wrong. And I have so much compassion for that because I've been there, or I get it. I'm just studying this. I know what this is like. Someone is just talking and talking and talking and not letting you speak. It's not that I don't matter. Is that they have no idea how charisma works and they are so badly trying to impress me right now and it is not working and they don't even know because their connection is off and they're not even they don't even know. I have so much compassion. If I were doing this and I weren't aware, I'd be mortified. Bless their cotton socks. This is not my person. I'm not going into business with this person. I'm not going into bed with this person. Our goose is cooked. The deal is done. But I have so much compassion because if I were doing this and I found out, I'd be mortified. That compassion will take you everywhere. And people remember how you treated them. You don't know who they'll be in a decade. You know, I talked too much and thought I knew what I was talking about and had false confidence and I had conviction in things that made no sense over a decade ago. And I remember the people who made me feel really insignificant and I wouldn't circle back now. But if those conversations were met with compassion and listening and leaning back and letting me do my thing and just walking away, maybe I would circle back. You never know who you're meeting. Some people are meant to bloom in a decade for you. Sometimes because you've got stuff to learn, sometimes because they've got stuff to learn. Give the compassion you pray for. Sometimes you meet a person a decade too soon. Give yourselves both a chance. Give compassion, let it go. Don't be insulted. They just don't know. Don't feel frustrated. Don't think they're against you. They just have no charisma. Let it go, breathe, give yourselves a decade. So I want you to practice this in communication. Every time you see a pattern that drives you bananas, you notice someone's talking to you and they do that song thing where they just kind of go up in volume and then down in volume, and then they talk a little faster. And when they can see that you're kind of opening your mouth as though you're about to cut them off, they speak a little bit louder and a little bit faster. And then when you breathe, they breathe. And then when you swallow, they swallow. Just make sure you don't cut them off. And you're like, are you ever going to let me speak? Have compassion, breathe, notice. If you find yourself wanting to cut someone else off because you're afraid you're going to forget your idea, have the courage to forget your idea. See how long you can stay present. Challenge yourself. Either you're going to make relationships that are going to change your life, or you're going to get to practice charisma with the hardest people to practice charisma with, which will only make you better at this. You don't lose. When you make it your life mission, when you're like, I am going to be excellent at this because it's who I am and I will learn. And there's not one kind of person on earth that's going to throw me off my game. I can listen. I can have compassion. I deeply care about people. I know what I value, including myself. I got this. You become so powerful. Not because you look powerful or you sound powerful, because you are powerful. This is some of the hardest things to do. We're impatient. We've got places to go. We've got people to see. We don't have time for this. But if we can master communication with the hardest people, then it's a field day with the energetic match people. And the greatest thing is when you master your charisma with people who are difficult to be charismatic with, you nail it when you're with a charismatic person. And you can let them talk all they want and you listen with curiosity and you don't cut them off. And then you speak and they don't cut you off, but you don't feel guilty because you're in the zone and you're connected and you can tell they're listening and it's going well. That's when you start manifesting the greatest things. When you can hold yourself in a charismatic conversation with a person that's completely clueless, then when you manifest a charismatic person, you start getting opportunities. You start getting magic. They want to introduce you to people. They're like, this is the kind of person I could bring to a dinner party. She won't interrupt. She'll listen to people. She'll see the value in people. Like, this is the kind of person I want to introduce to my people. And the only way you can nail it with a charismatic person is to nail it with a bunch of non-charismatic people first. Because if you can do it there, you can do it anywhere. If you can make it with non-charismatic people, you can make it with anybody. It's the greatest practice. So you just need compassion, 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 and practice. Enjoy, share your breakthroughs. Let us know what happens. And our next one is all about currency as it pertains to charisma. Thank you for being here. We're going to put on the Q&A thread. If you start having questions, start adding things on there. I love you. You're beautiful. You smell nice. Oh, I love the hearts. Thank you, Samiha. Have the most beautiful evening, and I will see you so soon.